Hello, and welcome to take two of the usually serviceable, hopelessly miscast podcast from your friends at Germantown Community Theatre, or GCT for short. I'm Paul. I just kind of hang out here. Brian tells me I'm on the board, so I show up for meetings and such. I'm like the Milton of the theater. Um, we have our regular panelist, which is Brian Everson,
Hello.
Executive Director, and we have Christina Hernandez.
Hello.
She's the Education Director, is that what we call you?
Trainer of the Army of Children Actors.
Of the future of America.
Yes.
The children are our future,
They
right?
are the world.
So she's a regular human education director,
Yes.
as is Brian as a regular human executive director. He's an ED for short. So anyway, we just thought we'd throw this together. And as usual, when we do something like this, we don't always prepare in full. We like to go off the cuff. So you could hear some things that are like, oh, well, that doesn't sound like they really thought that through. Typically with me, that's how life goes anyway. So if you like this podcast, please give us a like wherever we have this up. Or, let us know by sending Brian a poorly worded, hopelessly miscast email telling him your podcast stinks, or I love it, or Christina's the voice of reason with you two clowns. That's probably more of what we'll get, which she's nodding vigorously or making obscene gestures at us or something. So anyway, what we'll do each week, typically, is we'll take a classic show that one of them select. It can be a musical, a play, something like, it's typically going to be like that because we're theater. And we'll just kind of go through some categories and discuss it and give our opinions, which nobody asked for, but we're going to give it anyway. And then we'll go through a handful of other topics, some regular ones, and then a few that just kind of we discuss or come up that we see online and say, hey, let's talk about that for anybody who's listening, all four of you. And then we'll have kind of a closing rant section where they can talk about whatever they want. It doesn't even have to be theater related. Brian may talk about Roadhouse again. He loves to talk about that movie. Christina may talk about wine boxes and how those infect your life and turn you into a different person. Or Count Chocula. Just anything that pops in our transom. So, anyway, so let's get started. Brian got first pick of the shows that we're going to talk about. And Brian chose, which I was sort of like, why? Chose The King and I. So, what I'll do is kind of give an overview for any of you that might have never seen it. Blessings to you. You have those 3 hours of your life that you'll not have to get back somewhere. It won a Tony Award for Best Musical in 1952. Somehow. It's based on Margaret Landon's 1944 novel, Anna and the King of Siam. So, basically, the one-paragraph synopsis, courtesy of StageAgent.com, Rodgers and Hammerstein's The King and I is a moving, radiant story of East meets West. It is the early 1860s when newly widowed Anna, can't say her last name, and her son, is it Louis or Louis?
It really doesn't matter.
Okay, I'm going to say Louis, set sail from their native England for Bangkok, Siam, now Thailand. Anna, still grieving, has set her sights on a new adventure and taken a position as the school teacher for the royal offspring of the King of Siam. The king is determined to usher Siam into the modern world, and he thinks Western education can be a part of that, yet Anna is horrified at first by many of the traditions that he holds dear. Anna and the king struggle to find common ground. The king is largely considered to be a barbarian by rulers of the West, and he takes Anna on as an advisor, asking her to help change his image, if not his actual practice. With both keeping a firm grip on their respective traditions and values, Anna and the king teach each other about understanding, respect, and love that can transcend the greatest of differences. I'm filled with saccharin right now. I'm about to vomit. Beneath the fraught, fiercely opinionated, conflict-ridden surface of Anna and the king's relationship lies one of the most unique love stories in the musical theater canon. That's a mouthful.
I cringed
of
through that whole
something.
description.
Yeah, me too. So, anyway, so what's you guys' overall impressions of that show?
So the first time I was exposed to The King and I was a 8th grader in high school, and my sister was in The King and I, and she played a dog. And
Big role for her. Is that on her career CV?
I would think so. But the funny thing is, I went to the show. It was the first time I'd seen a high school show. And after that, I just loved the theater, and I wanted to do it ever since. So technically, you all can blame The King and I for me being involved in theater at all. If it wasn't for The King and I would not be sitting in this chair today. But that does not mean the show itself is what I would consider a good production.
So does that mean I can bill your sister for my admission to Dracula?
You should absolutely do that.
Oh my God.
Someone needs money back from that.
Oh no.
Yeah. What do you think?
I'm gonna hot take and say I actually really love The King and I.
That's not a hot take.
While also acknowledging that it is problematic as hell, like all Golden Age theater. What do we do with it? I don't know.
That's a great question. I mean, especially with the events of, we'll say this year, but I mean, even the last, since the 60s. There's a lot of themes that, came out of that since, again, the book was in the 40s, and then the show was produced the first time in the early 50s, when we know that was a very different time with gender politics, race politics, all kinds of politics. So, yeah, there are some tough things in it. Tough watch. I mean, I'll share a personal story of one of the times I've had to see The King and I was at a theater in North Mississippi, and a good friend of the podcast, Jason Eschhofen, was in it, and I, always found it humorous, which, he's the nicest guy you'll ever meet in the world. I'll also say he's beyond the level of rising star. That's my editorial comment. He's been a rising star like 5 years ago. He is an established star.
He
now.
is risen indeed.
Yes, he is way above rising. He's like way up in the multiverse. So anyway, that was another aside to an aside. So seeing him as a then late 20s guy playing one of the key characters and having to have a love affair with what in reality was a 17-year-old actress. Do I give him hell about that? Perhaps. Just because I find it funny. That's my comment about that show. Totally inappropriate, but PG-13 rated, would you say, Brian?
I think that's what we're aiming for, is PG-13. So, I mean, just the show itself, you said you enjoyed it, Christina. Yeah. You liked the show. What particular aspects? Is it the music of the show, or what do you particularly like about it?
Because I'm a sucker for any Rodgers and Hammerstein that has like a soprano singing teacher. I can't help it.
What's your favorite? I would assume I hate to assume because you know what it does, but Getting to Know You, is that your favorite number out of the show?
Maybe. I don't know. It's hard to pick. There's a lot of bangers in this show.
Do
Hello,
you use
Young
any of them
Lovers is beautiful.
You used one as an audition piece in the past?
I don't know if I have something from this in my book. My book is actually sitting right there. I could look. But yeah, I like Hello, Young Lovers. Shall We Dance is a bop. Whistle a Happy Tune is a bop. You just can't go wrong. All of her songs are so good. Something Wonderful is so good too, but I have so many Lady Tiang just angst problems with that role. So.
Understandably. So, well, then who and you guys, I'll start with you, Christina. Who do you think is the best or your favorite character in the show? Are you going to take the easy way and say Anna?
Here's the problem.
That's okay if you say it.
I mean, I find that character to have the nicest arc of the show, but also runs into the white savior problem I have with this entire show. So but yes, I do love an Anna. Okay.
What about you, Brian?
I would have to say that there is no good character in this show.
But this was you picked this show.
That's not unfair. I mean,
we didn't say good character.
Everyone in the show is terrible.
Character?
You're all terrible.
The best character, let's just say, because I feel sorry for her, is Tuptim.
Oh yeah, that's fair too.
Okay. Fair enough. Who's the worst character?
So, do you know who Tuptim is, Paul?
I forgot.
Okay,
No.
so she's the slave girl who is destined to be one of
Oh, yes, now I remember.
one of the wives, because he's a polygamist
Yes.
of the king.
She like runs away with the guy, or she's going to run away with the guy. Is that person?
Yeah,
Correct.
she's
Okay.
also a very interesting choice. Is writing a play based off of Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Yeah. I was waiting to see where you went with that.
Oof. Yeah. So there's a lot of depth there, I guess. Yeah. That's all I want to say about that.
This show.
Well, on that note, let's say who's the worst character in the show. There's a lot to choose from.
Everyone. I mean,
They're all anti-heroes.
To me, clearly the king is the worst.
I mean, yeah.
I would agree with that.
I mean, he is absolutely the worst character in the show because he is written like a savage when he should not be.
Yeah.
The culture they're representing has been around a lot longer than European culture, and for them to treat this character as barely a human is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's extremely important to like point out that it's not that he's the worst. How he is written is the worst. We're the worst.
Yes, interesting diagnosis. I'll say in the etc. joke is they milk that one way too long in that show. Like a lot of things in that show. I mean, I love musicals. I think every musical could be shortened by at least 15 to 20 minutes. And that one you could shave an hour and 20 minutes.
I would say
story across.
First Date is the perfect length. It's 90 minutes. You're in and out.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I don't remember all of that. I only saw that at a midnight showing.
Yeah.
So I do remember one of the actors making an obscene gesture at me for making too much noise.
Well, you probably deserved it.
I know I did.
Yeah.
So, but brings people together. Theater, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So then, what's your favorite part of the show, or do you have a favorite part?
My favorite part is when it's over.
Oh, I can totally relate to that. How about you, Christine?
I like all the songs with the kids because they're sweet and fun.
Tugs at your education and heartstrings.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm a sap. I like it.
Okay, that's cool. What about the worst part of the show?
Two things, two
Low-hanging
worst
fruit
parts.
here.
One, when the overture starts and the play is about to start. The other thing is that the person most famous for playing the king is Yul Brynner, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yul Brynner is
clearly not of that descent.
he is Russian, as a matter of fact. So he is very, 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 very white, and this man is now forever associated. A white person is forever associated with being the king of Siam, and Siam is now Thailand, but which is horribly, horribly wrong. And it's great that in recent years that Broadway has decided, hey, we should cast Asian people as the king. But how long? I think I read a statement or a fact that like Yul Brynner played the role like more than 10,000 times in
Lord.
film and
That's
on
wild.
stage. So
I get so bored with playing a part 10,000 times.
I mean, how it took us that long to figure out that we should let an Asian person play an Asian role.
Well, remember, as Paul Mooney says, Tom Cruise, he's the last samurai.
That's
Yeah,
a
so-
great point. Great point.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well, and then Matt Damon went and saved the Chinese on the Great
the
Wall.
Great Wall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's as he said. First, we have the Mexican with Brad Pitt. So I can't repeat the other joke that he makes, which is funny, but he can say it. I can't. So, what do you think is the worst part of the show? Of the worst of the worst. I know you have a lot of pickings here to grab from.
I kind of hate the way it ends. If we're being honest,
I get that. Yeah.
So there's that.
It just
it's
ends.
kind of rough. It ends real rough.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to I mean, this is like a 60-year-old musical. I'm sure we can spoil it.
We can
yeah?
spoil the end. Yes. I
Yeah,
feel safe.
Yo, how you gonna just kill the king and wrap it up
Yep.
with little to no denouement?
Well, when you're at the 3-hour mark, you gotta
They're
wrap
like,
it
"All
up
right,
somehow.
We're out of time. Kill this guy.
It's like, okay, a nuke just fell on the Kingdom of Siam, and
It's
they're all dead now.
It's pretty wild choice. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll skip casting corner because we've said all, at least what there is to say about the King, with Yul Brynner playing that.
Yeah, and look, I mean, there are theaters in town that have done this show. I don't think we have done this show, but I know from our standpoint, we will never do this show because there's no way we could cast it appropriately. So, there's Rodgers and Hammerstein shows I like. I do enjoy Oklahoma. Personally, I like South Pacific, and even though there are some problematic stuff, I still find that show somewhat challenging even today.
I love South Pacific.
But to attempt to do this show without a stable of Asian artists is, I don't think
unforgivable.
That should be perhaps unforgivable.
Were you gonna say that? Or disrespectful?
Maybe disrespectful, but maybe both. Maybe
I think
unforgivable and disrespectful. But
which you're known for.
Yeah, that's going to be on my headstone. That and
already made it up for you.
hopelessly miscast, and disrespectful, and
That's
unforgivable.
the name of your obituary too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unforgiven and disrespectful.
So,
I'll read that in your eulogy.
I hope we don't see this show in our area for a while until we can cast it correctly. But
I would agree.
I suspect we might see it sooner than we should. But
yeah, I mean, it's obviously I have disdain for the show. It's not the worst show I've ever seen, but it is what I would call one of those retreads. Some theater will haul it out there as and I mean, hey, we've done it too. We've hauled out some retreads.
Absolutely.
Shows where it's like, okay, we need to fill a slot. This will get the butts in the seats. Let's do it.
Oh, you can just look at our history of shows that we've done, and there are some shows we should not have.
There are shows we've been in that are retreads.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyway, so in the end, I hesitate to look at Christina for this question. Who wins the show? Certainly not social justice. How about that?
Who indeed?
Do Rodgers and Hammerstein win the show?
I mean,
Or whoever owns the
racked
rights to
up.
their estate.
Does Yul Brynner win the show?
MTI
MTI wins the
wins.
show.
wins the show.
Good job, MTI.
Congratulations.
So, okay, so that was The King and I, and now we'll move on to, we'll have some, like I said, some rotating topics and some that come up, each week. So the first topic I'll throw out for discussion with our panelists is, you guys have been in a lot of shows each. I've been in a few shows, not near as many as you guys have, but let's say we all have been in enough that we've dealt with a lot of different types of artists, shall we call them. Lots of people who are really great people. I don't want to sound like our current president, but I'll say some great people, some tremendous people. And then there's some who are not so tremendous, who they may be, then you may actually do a show with a great person, but they have some annoying personal traits or professional traits. We'll call it professional, even though you're not usually making money at this in community theater. So what would you guys say, in your minds, are the most annoying traits in fellow actors, actresses that you've ever experienced personally?
I just want you to take a note and not speak during it.
Like while the
my
director's
goodness.
giving a
Yes,
note? I mean,
all I want in this life, and I'll ask for nothing more, is for actors to just nod yes, say thank you, and,
Thank you
and
note.
take a note. That's all.
Don't argue about the note. Don't
Yeah.
explain why they did it that way
Don't
that night.
give a note in return.
Yeah.
Just take it.
when you've directed kid shows, do you have a bigger problem with that, you think, than adults?
No.
Or do kids always
Adults
take
are
the
worse.
notes? I would believe that. That's what I would think.
Adults are worse. My kids, 9 times out of 10, just go, okay, thank you, or yes, ma'am.
Do they incorporate the notes better than adults? Or do you have to remind them over and over?
It depends.
Because we know there's plenty of adults that need to hear the note.
It depends. It depends on what kind of note it is. If it's like, hey, can you stand over there? They're usually fine. But, like middle schoolers in particular are like really weird about not wanting to look stupid. So if I like give like bigger, more, that note usually happens at least like
Or if you
3
say,
or
I
4
gave you that
times.
note yesterday, now I'll give it again.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, she got on to me
Okay,
again.
just even more. But yeah, no. They're great. They don't do that. That's an adult trait.
Brian, what about you? What's an annoying trait?
I'm gonna tattle on myself because
So you've done this.
I've been told I've done this. It's not something that anyone does purposely, but apparently, occasionally in scenes, if someone is, particularly once we get the show up and is on stage, I will silently start to mouth the lines as the person's saying them. And I have no recollection of ever doing this, but I've been accused of this many a time, so I assume it's true. I never
It
experienced
sounds like a
it.
tick or something.
I never experienced it until the last couple of years. I was like, "Oh man, this is really bad. I need to make a really conscious effort to not do this anymore."
I've never seen a human do that.
I'm trying. It's through a lot of alcohol and a couple of years. I'm trying to flash back in my mind to when we did Arsenic and Old Lace together. Just remember if you ever were mouthing my lines back at me.
By that point,
I don't remember.
It had been pointed out to me multiple times. So I have been trying really hard, the last 5 years in particular, to not do that. So, but yeah, apparently it is absolutely, completely annoying for that to occur.
Isn't there a joke
Right.
about that in The Producers?
So yeah, I mean, sorry, there we had to take a little stop. But yeah, so Brian mouthing lines of other actors, but he's apparently cut that out. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't remember seeing you do that in Arsenic, so that's good. I mean, I remember myself not like tying you up when I was supposed to in a show.
Yes, and Mr. Roan got quite upset with you.
Yeah, he did, and rightfully so. But rest in peace, John.
Yeah.
Love you.
No kidding.
So what's some other annoying traits? I mean, I'll say one that I know I have is that, because I admitted to you guys the other day, there's been a couple of times, not because the director might have thought I wasn't taking a note well. And I get that. It's more of like I took a note and I was really confused, thinking I don't remember what you're talking about or something like that. But what really steams me is when other actors give you notes,
I cannot.
especially in real time. It's because when you're sitting after a rehearsal, for those of you who have not done a show, you typically after a rehearsal, especially when you get into on the stage rehearsals, you're all back in the house, you're sitting there, and the director is giving you notes, or the music director is giving you notes, and everybody's hearing it. It's not personalized. So when you hear a note, you're essentially being told this note in front of everybody. So when another actor would give me notes like after a rehearsal, I just kind of brush it off like thanks, whatever. But when you're on the stage and like the director says hold, we're going to stop for a second, and I've had another actor turn to me immediately after hearing hold and go, you were standing in the wrong place there. You need to turn and do this instead. And I just want to haul off and slap them.
That's
It's like,
something my
okay.
kids actually do a lot, though.
Really?
Yeah, my kids like to give each other notes.
Do you chastise them for
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
And are they contrite about it, or are they like, whatever,
No.
I'm going to keep giving notes?
No, they're gonna leave 8th grade knowing how to behave themselves.
And then go to high school and it all gets ruined.
Yeah, probably, but not on my watch, buddy.
Right, exactly. So what's some other annoying traits that you guys have noticed? One more from each of you.
I would say that I hate waiting for people that are late.
Ooh,
Me too.
yeah,
Be punctual.
Just in life.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
In life in general, but particularly, I don't want we're going to be here forever anyway. I don't want to wait 10 minutes for you to show up to rehearsal. please show up. And I will say, you know, when I look through directors and stuff in town, I mean, valuing your other artist's town is probably, maybe it shouldn't be, but it's the number one thing that I look for in a director.
Oh yeah, I don't want my time wasted.
Agreed.
So I mean, don't waste any. You know, and as an actor, I mean, you're wasting everyone's time. So just leave 10 minutes earlier. You know.
Right. Well, that's like I say with a job. That's the thing. That's one of the few things that you, as a worker, and in this case an actor, or even a production crew member or something like that, you have almost complete control over that. You have you have 99% control, I say. I mean, everybody occasionally, 1% of the time, has a flat tire, witnesses a wreck, gets caught by every traffic light on the way. But even then, in that case, in a lot of those cases, you could say, okay, that happened to me in this show 5 years ago. I'm not going to let that happen again. I'm going to leave 10 minutes earlier, like you say. There's the random thing that could occur, but you have almost complete control of that. Once you're at rehearsal, you don't have control over what the director's going to do. And some directors are very strict about how they stick to their own schedule, which is great, and some are not. And you might be there for a 3-hour rehearsal, and 2 hours and 40 minutes in, you realize we haven't even gotten to my part yet. So I don't think we're going to. That kind of steams me, but
Yeah, not into that.
anyway, you got another one to throw out there?
I don't like when people change things in the middle of the run of a show. Like I really don't like fun like ad-libby games in the middle of shows.
Talking about
I
other
like to
actors or directors or both?
I'm sorry, yes, other actors. I don't enjoy when people kind of take the show that we rehearsed for 6 weeks off the rails.
Right. And yeah,
I'm not fun.
right. I agree, and I mean, I know directors are typically sensitive to that as
Yeah,
well.
it's literally your job to do the same show.
Right.
And not take away the work that...
Well, especially during a show run. I mean, because we've all done shows where, I mean, a show would run anywhere, typically in a community theater setting, 2 to 4 weekends.
Yeah.
And the 4 weekend shows can get rough. I mean, because by the 4th weekend, you're worn out. We've all had directors come in the green room or whatever you want to call it, the dressing rooms, anything, and give the speech, hey, don't change anything. I know you guys are tired, or I know you've done this show already basically 100 times. Don't change things up just to keep it fresh for yourself. Give these people the same experience that the opening crowd got.
Mm-hmm.
Blah, blah, blah. I totally respect that. I think most people do.
Yeah.
But yeah, when like you guys, I've had other actors who have, the last weekend, have said, we're going to switch something up. And they don't, it's, even if they tell you they're going to do it.
No.
Well, and I think the perfect example of it would be you were in what crap? What's the name of it? 1776.
Yes.
What was your runtime opening night?
Oh, probably, I would say just under 3 hours. We're like 2:55, 3, something like
And
that.
what was your runtime, the closing performance?
Oh, at least 3:20, 25.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's the changes there typically were not lines or blocking maneuvering. It was milking what you're doing. It's that fall down or that step this way that I had that took 5 seconds. Now I'm going to make it take all the way up to 30.
Yeah.
And those add up, as a director will always say during a rehearsal. And it's, when you have something like that, and you're an actor and you're on stage, it's obviously you're not going to break character and be like, hey, speed it up, let's go. But you just don't bargain for that.
Yeah.
So, anyway. Okay, no, it's, yeah. Hey, everybody's got their peeves. Some of them are personal to you, and some of them are just, I think, almost universal amongst actors and directors and music directors and everything. So, next topic. What's a show in your mind that should have never been written And you can't say The King and I
Aw.
because we already talked about it.
Boo.
And Brian picked it.
Boo.
So next week you can pick something that's more appropriate.
Okay, cool.
But what's a show? It can be a musical or a play. What's something that should have never been written? I know you've got something in your mind.
Oh, me?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm throwing it to you
Oh.
first.
Can we
Are you not prepared?
can we talk about?
Are you not
Oh
prepared?
my god. Well, okay. Do you? Should we start with Andrew Lloyd Webber and work out from there? Should we?
Well,
Sure,
pick
yeah.
one of his shows then.
Well,
and
right,
see
right,
from
right.
Not his whole catalog.
there. Okay.
I think
That's like
The whole
weeks.
catalog?
That's weeks worth of material right there.
Right. I think the one that shouldn't have been written the most, even though it's not my least favorite, is I think we have to start with Starlight Express, right?
Oof. That is a rough watch.
Why?
My sister, I remember my older sister went to Switzerland and England as a high school present from my dad and stepmom. She saw that show in London at age 16, and I remember saying, "Oh, it must have been exciting to see a show in London." And she's like, "Yeah, London was great. The show sucked." And at that point, I was not into theater, so that of course jaded me to that show. But I have since tried. I've since tried to like watch YouTube clips, and I'm like, "What is the point of
It's
this show?"
Fascinating how bad it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Plan 9 from outer space of the
Yeah.
Lloyd Webber catalog.
Yeah.
So
I'd still rather watch it over Joseph, just because I think Joseph is the worst.
ooh,
But
there's another one.
it is beloved, and I will acknowledge. I know that people really enjoy that show.
Well, let's put it this way, though.
I would gladly axe it from existence.
So
if I
which
could.
one would you rather be forced to watch if you're like in a Clockwork Orange and your eyeballs are
Starlight.
held open? So how many boxes of wine would it take for you to get through the whole thing?
2.5.
It's 2.5 on the box meter.
It's like how many
2.5
times?
boxes.
How many?
2.5. You might be passed out by then,
That's
but
the
you
plan,
got through
baby.
it.
So we just have to watch that once a piece, or is it just on a loop?
I'm gonna say once.
Well, how long is Starlight? Because Joseph is like 90 minutes,
Yeah, that's true.
so the experience would be over faster.
I don't remember how long
It
Starlight
would.
is.
Yeah.
but
I'm
then
too
you gotta
lazy to look
remember
it
that
up.
mega mix though when
Yeah,
you're
that
doing
mega mix.
Joseph.
The Mega Mix.
Yeah.
Gotta remember that. What about you, Brian? What's a show that should have never been written?
I'm gonna stay in the Lloyd Webber catalog and go with Love Never Dies.
Aw, okay.
Although my 10-year-old actually loves that show.
There's some sweet songs in that show.
It's the whole concept of
It's bad though.
spoiler alert. If you haven't seen it and you want to see it, apparently the Phantom raped Christine and had a baby with Christine that Christine has passed off as Raoul's. And that whole thing is very problematic to me.
Well, and it's Coney Island.
Are you
Coney
insinuating
Island?
that Andrew Lloyd Webber would write a really weird, inappropriate romance into
Yeah.
one of his musicals where someone is extremely predatory?
You mean like the
that
first
mirrors
Phantom?
his
Inappropriate.
real life
Inappropriate's his unofficial middle name.
relationship?
Andrew Inappropriate Webber.
Oh, are you talking about Andrew and Sarah's?
Yeah.
Okay, relationship. I don't know. I don't know the
Sick-ass
details of that,
metaphors.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Did
I'll
you-
drop another analogy. The Roman Polanski of
Oh, gee.
modern theater.
Did you guys hear the story about his cat erasing the entirety of Love Never Dies from like saved on his keyboard?
The cat's
Like,
my hero.
Deep into writing it.
And then he had to rewrite it
I guess.
from memory.
I guess I'm not sure
No.
if that's urban legend or not. So
Well, the cat possessed a human brain and said, no, not this one, buddy. You've gone really deep, and
You've
some
gone
others
too
don't
far."
go there. Yeah. So okay, those are both good candidates. So here's another topic for you. So
Oh,
And-
beyond that, going back to it, beyond just the relationship, there's legit one decent song in the whole show, which is "Love Never Dies." That song is brilliant. It's
the title track, huh?
it is stunning. It felt like he had like one really good song. And he's like, I need to build a show around this song, what will make people come see it? Oh, let's make it a sequel to Phantom. So people will come hear this one song in the show. And that's like the only thing in the show that, in my mind, is worth anything. The rest of the story is just bonkers crazy.
You're not wrong.
Let's see, because, I mean, my 10-year-old Roland, he loved Phantom when he was a kid because he loved the music. And I loved the music in Phantom for the most part. There's a couple songs I could definitely do without. And so when Love Never Dies came out, I think we watched it on BroadwayHD.com or something, and he was like, "Oh, I love that show." I was like, "Really?" I was playing Candy Crush within 10 minutes. I mean, so kind of like when he wants to watch, NXT instead of AEW or something like that.
Mm.
There's a deep drop. Christina knows what I'm talking about. Most of you won't.
Very good analogy.
Yeah, so it's
Hits deep.
we're here. So here's another topic, and this is I feel like I told these guys, let's not focus completely on the negative, as much of a negative person as I can be. So who's a community theater person who you've worked with or you've been around who's just a joy to be around or work with?
I'm worried we're gonna pick the same person.
Uh-oh. Well, who wants to go first?
You
then?
go first.
Go ahead.
I will never ever say no to working with Eileen Quo. Never, not once. Never.
Love that lady. And she immediately accepted my invite for fantasy football this week.
Aw.
So
That's right.
that's awesome
She's
too.
a true angel.
I had to talk somebody else into it, but Eileen and her lovely husband said,
Nathan.
"Yep,
Not
we're on."
Not Nate.
Not Nate.
It's Nathan.
Nathan, aka Eileen's bitch.
Well, no.
Yes,
Uh,
I'm testing the limits of our PG-13 with
yeah,
that.
you are. But I mean, Nathan's a cool dude. I don't know why you'd
Oh, I love Nathan,
go hard on him like that.
and it's fine to be Eileen's bitch.
But
I would.
there are worse things. But I mean, just
Eileen's
Eileen
awesome.
in general is a well-respected attorney. She's a lovely actress. She is a music director. She knows some kind of fighting something or other.
Total badass.
Yes.
I mean, everything she does.
She's the Renee to my Gerard.
I mean,
She'll know what that means.
the only bad side about being Eileen is if
Oh,
you're next
no.
to her and like talking to her, you realize how little you've accomplished in life compared to her.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's fair.
That's a negative for you, not her.
Yeah, just makes you depressed about yourself.
I mean, she never complained once, as I had to attempt to carry her across our stage every night in some weird dance maneuver. I mean,
She's a trooper.
So yes,
Yeah.
she is very much a trooper. So, and a recent Ostrander winner.
Absolutely,
So,
well deserved.
Yes, very
The first,
much so.
I don't know if that was her first or not, but it won't be the last for sure. So
And she designs the hell out of whatever that game is that we watched.
Animal
On
Crossing.
YouTube.
Her
She's got a
Animal
lovely
Crossing
Animal Crossing island. yeah.
Animal Crossing
is
Island.
Just stunning.
It
a
was
sight
so
to
dope
behold.
that a YouTuber wanted her to walk her through it.
Yeah.
It's like how does she have time for everything she does? That's what I don't understand.
It's a great
Who
question.
knows?
She doesn't have kids.
She's also
That's
my
why.
daughter's best friend, so
That's true.
That's adorable.
Yeah, Arya and Eileen are,
Miss Eileen.
Inseparable.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
unless you pull them apart. So what about you, Brian? Are you going to say Eileen or are you going to say somebody else?
No, I wasn't actually. That's a wonderful choice. I was thinking more of someone I've worked with on stage. I would say for me, someone I really love working with any time I can from an acting standpoint is Stuart Turner.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's not been on stage a ton lately, but I think I've seen him show up on a couple cast lists lately, so I'm very excited to see him on stage again
Always
because
excited.
Awesome guy.
he is a stunning actor.
Mm-hmm.
He's funny. He's wonderful to work with. He's a very sweaty actor. But that just makes him even more lovable.
Yes.
And he's a great guy.
Always giving with his time.
And yeah, I mean, if you ever get a chance to work with Stuart, you should absolutely.
I've never had the pleasure of doing a show with him. We've had many conversations, and he's a great guy. What I will say is that he was the adult Charlie Brown when my older son Carson was the child Linus. at You're a Good Man here at GCT years ago, and Carson was the baby of the cast. He and Katie Cotton were the babies.
Mm-hmm.
Carson was 11 at the time, and Stuart was one of the many adults who just took him under their wing, and he and Nicole and Jacqueline were just, and Ashley Everwater, they were great with him. Just, always had time for him, made sure he was taken care of. Great experience. So.
We miss you, Stuart. Please come out and work at GCT again.
As we say all that, get your ass back out here. So, okay. So what we'll move on to now is one of I'll call a regular feature. So I will read these guys. There's I will say, cite the website that I found. It's called notalwaysright.com. And they have a theater section where there's crazy theater stories. But stories that, as I read them, some of them are longer than others. I'll pick some of the shorter ones. Some of them are longer than others, but as I read them, I could either relate myself or I can see a reaction from one or both of these guys to it of, yep, been there, done that, and here's my opinion of it. So, here's this week's installment of Crazy Theater Stories, sponsored by Jimmy the Cock. And for those of you who don't know, we have Jimmy the Rooster, who we call Jimmy the Cock affectionately. He was taken from the set of Bluff City Law, which is canceled. But
Boo.
Mr. Everson and I were able to acquire some of the old props from that show. Jimmy the Cock sits in the office by my quote-unquote desk.
Yeah.
And he always holds 20, so he's ready for action. We'll just put it
he's
that way.
He's a good little rooster.
Yes.
And I'd like to say thank you to Jack Yates for allowing us to bring Jimmy into our lives, because
Amen to that.
I'm sure Christina would feel the same way, that our lives would not be as fulfilled if Jimmy was not in them. So
Yes.
I agree.
Same as Count Chocula.
Count Chocula imperative also.
Yes. So Count Chocula looks longingly over Christina's shoulder every day that she works in the office, and she loves that. Anyway, so this story this week is called Seat Down and Choose Your Battles. This is taken from what someone called Extra Stupid, a theater in Maryland. This is a story from March of this year. And the narrator, or as I'll call them, says, I'm talking to an elderly patron on the phone. He's buying tickets to the most recent show. Me. I can get you 2 seats in the middle of orchestra right, row C. Patron. I don't want them near the far end. What seat numbers are they? Me. C8 and C10. Patron. No, I don't. I want 2 seats together. Me. They're together. The seats in the orchestra right are numbered by even numbers, and orchestra left is odds. Patron says, oh, okay. How many seats are in this row? I say, 10, sir. Patron says, but you're putting me in C10. That's the last seat. I say, no, sir. The seats go from C2 to C20 because they're even. Patron says, that doesn't make sense. I say, as I said before, the orchestra right seats are assigned even numbers only. Patron says, I want to be in the middle! Exclamation point. I say, yes, your seats are in the middle of the row. The last seat in this row is C20. Patron says, so there are 20 seats in this row? I say, after a pause, yes. That's our story for this week.
Golly.
So I would be willing to bet good money that the Orpheum gets at least 10 calls a week in a normal environment about this kind of thing.
Can you imagine?
I can verify. I used to work at the Orpheum box office back when there was a kiosk in the Oak Court Mall.
Oh no!
And I
at the Oak Court.
At the
Oh my
Oak
God.
Court Mall, I worked there, and that was the first year that Phantom was coming into town.
Aw.
Oh,
So
no.
all of the non-theater
We're back to Lloyd
people,
Webber already.
yeah, we're back.
Welcome
It's
to
all a
my
giant circle.
circular phantom life.
Yes. You know, the best comedians, they tell a story at the beginning of their set and a story at the end of the set, and they tie the two together,
Yep.
just to show how clever they are. Yeah, so I can verify trying to seat people in an Orpheum-style house and how you just want to beat your head against the computer by the end of most of your conversations. So
Yeah, I would believe it. Now here at GCT, we're a smaller theater, so all of our seats are numbered 1 through 10, 11, however far they go.
yeah, 1 through 10 now. Yeah,
Right.
their seating upgrade, our
In our
fancy new
brand
seats.
new house.
That's right.
Yes.
No one can
Come out
sit
and
in
see
it yet because we can't do shows, but
Yeah.
it's a new house.
Shameless plug. But yeah, we don't have to deal with that. There are other issues that, as you hear these stories each week, they will ring more of a chord with here. But that was the first one that I saw up that was, it's like, yeah, I could totally see that.
Well,
It
I mean,
made me think of the Orpheum immediately.
Big props to anyone. I mean, Annie, our box office manager, I've sat in this office and listened to her talk to patrons, and I'm like, I don't know how she is not slamming the phone down and beating things at her desk. The box office is a hard job, and so if
Yeah.
you're going to work in a box office, props to you. You're doing
Yes.
a very unthanked job that is so important, because most people's experience with the theater begins and ends at the box office as far as interaction. I don't talk to most of our patrons, but our box office person talks to almost all of them. So
I couldn't do it.
She's so good. She's so like friendly with them. She
Yes.
knows them, makes them
Yeah.
feel. Like,
And they
super
know her
special.
by name,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they come in and mention her. Only time I hear her slam the phone down is when a telemarketer calls.
Oh, she hates telemarketers.
Yes.
She will
She
scream
will
and
actively
yell.
chew them out and then hang up, which I don't blame her. So another regular feature is Mrs. Murray's Ghost Corner.
Yay.
Mrs. Murray is known here at GCT. Brian said he had a Mrs. Murray story, so I'll let him read one. Sometimes I'll read one from another theater that I find online, but
Yeah.
since he had one that's local, I'll let him say it.
So I can't read it. I will retell the story as it was, as best as I can recall from being told the story from Mr. Bill Short, who is a longtime friend of the theater. So we did a production in 2003, I believe, of Woman in Black. And if you don't know what Woman in Black, it's two actors on stage, and they're discussing a ghost in the theater, and the ghost is not a very positive influence on the theater. And basically, eventually in the show, I think a ghost shows up, and it's throughout the show, the actors are talking bad about the ghost, and so it's a very negative connotation given to ghosts in that show. In the GCT production in 2003, everyone in the cast and crew either lost an immediate relative or an extended relative during the rehearsal process.
Lord.
What?
Someone died
Oh my
related
gosh.
to each of the people. It got so bad that they had, and again, I'm just recollecting what Mr. Short told me, and if I'm recollecting it wrong, I so apologize. But the way I'm recollecting it, I remember him telling me the story, and I was just dumbfounded by it all. They eventually had to have a seance here in the theater,
Like exorcism style seance?
and they asked Miss Murray and the ghosts of the theater to forgive them and to just say, this is just a play, and will you please allow us to continue on with this production with no more consequences. And it was at that point that all the bad incidents stopped occurring in the theater.
I would give anything to like be a fly on the wall for that seance. Who led it? How did it go down?
know,
What
There's
did
so
they
many
do?
questions I
I have
have.
so many questions.
I think we maybe need to reach out to Mr. Short. I know
need
he's
to
now.
know.
Maybe he can come on this podcast.
I would love to have him
Yes.
as a guest.
I would too.
To just discuss this story.
It gave
We'll
me
have a
the,
special edition.
It gave me the goosies.
Yeah.
I mean, and not only to have him as a guest, I think it's a 2-part series. We have him as a guest, then we actually recreate the seance.
Oh my God.
If the
We
seance
write
is
a show
if
about
it's-
the seance.
If it's as scary as it seems to be from his retelling, I don't want any part of it. So,
Well, because she hasn't gone anywhere.
no,
so-
we're still in the same building,
Right.
and Mr. Short is
Peacefully
not.
sharing the space.
We're here every day, and he gets to hang out at Rhodes in the library. So we're the ones at risk here, not Mr. Short.
No, it's a great story. I mean, I remember when we were rehearsing Arsenic and Old Lace, laughing as the late great John Roan would be picking up the phone we had as one of our props and calling Joseph Kesselring in hell and saying, "It's okay, Joe. We're going to get this scene right eventually." So we had a lot of calls to hell that got put through to Joe Kesselring, the bard who wrote Arsenic and Old Lace. No, that's good. Okay, so it's a good story. Now we will close with what I'll call the closing rants from each of our panelists. So this is where they can talk about whatever they want. It doesn't have to be theater related. So Brian can talk about bad soccer, football in every other country of the world, or whatever he wants to do, or frustrations with living with little children in his house at his age. So
I like
I'm
you
probably
called
going to get a middle
them
finger for that.
Children.
Children. That was.
That's kind of accurate.
It was a slip. Or you can talk about his recent Beachbody workouts.
No, I don't want to talk about this.
You sure?
I think that's what you should talk about.
Yeah. And Christina can talk about what it's like to love songs that Brian hates, that I think are great because we can play them on YouTube anytime we want. Watch the videos. I'm not going to mention what it is. I would love for that to be our backdrop music, just because it'll make Brian cringe every time we tape a podcast that 7 of you are going to listen to, and 3 of the 7 are us. So anyway, who wants to go first?
Brian does.
Oh, I do.
All right.
Go first. Closing rants. Okay. And again, these are also sponsored by Jimmy the Cock.
Correct.
Thank you,
Thanks, Jimmy.
Jimmy Smits, for your beautiful porcelain rooster. Is that porcelain?
I don't know. It'll break if you throw it. That's what I know.
Let's just call it porcelain. Right?
We have some ashtrays and stuff from there too, and a lamp that's on your desk.
Since Christina wanted me to bring it up, I will say, fine, let's talk about Beachbody workouts.
Please do.
So these torture devices are, depending on the trainer, anywhere from 20 minutes to 45 minutes of running in place and burpees and sit-ups, and there's no stopping. And I played. Now, look, I'm not a spring chicken anymore, but I played competitive sports all through high school. I never have had a workout as hard as any of these stupid Beachbody things. To the point, like just started again on Saturday. I've not been able to move my arms fully in like 3 days because it hurts so bad. I cannot bend my elbow to the point of like not looking like I don't know how to drink from a cup. It's like I'm just got this weird little bird thing where I'm hunching over my glass and just kind of.
I thought you'd gone President Trump and you have to two-hand it.
Maybe he's got something there, but man, those little trainer dudes, they're mean, and I would not suggest those workouts to anyone that doesn't want to go through a lot of pain. And I hope by the end of this, I get something out of it where I feel better about my life, because right now I feel much worse about having started all of this. So.
There's so much to unpack there, but I'll say the best part is not only are you doing this, but you're paying for it.
Yes. Well, technically, my wife is paying for it. So.
Well, it's coming out of your whatever
our joint
your
funds.
Joint
yes.
income is.
Yes, it is. We are paying to be tortured. Is basically.
She roped you into this, so.
I
can't wait for her to hear this. Maybe
she won't listen to this.
No, she's tuned us out long ago.
She would have paused it a long
it's like, this is
ago.
boring. I'm done.
Yeah, but no, she wanted to work out, buddy, and I love my wife. I want to support her, so here we go, Beachbody. Let's make ourselves miserable. So
what happens when she puts you on the Sugar Busters diet?
We don't do diets together. She's got some weird food allergy things, so she's got a completely different set of things she can eat than I do. So as far as eating, we're kind of on our own. When I do a eating thing, I do what's called the slow carb diet from Timothy Ferriss, and it's main reason I do this because it has a cheat day every week. So, but that's
Cool.
That's enough that you didn't want to hear about my
That's
health
all right.
situation.
Excellent rant. On to you.
That was good. I want to rant more about ghosts, but I'm going to talk about my ghost.
Okay, your ghost.
So, I don't think I've actually told either of y'all about this yet
Uh-oh.
either. So,
We're sitting down so we can hear
have-
this.
we have a cool thing going on in our house right now. And our house was built in like the 30s, so it's pretty old. At this point, I just assume everything's haunted because someone's died everywhere, right?
Correct.
So,
Yep.
I mean, just because we hadn't run into a ghost yet doesn't mean that we wouldn't. So, this thing's been happening the last couple of weeks where there's like this weird tapping sound that keeps waking us up in the middle of the night, and it goes on forever it goes on, and it like literally just like
Wow.
knocking. So we're very sleep deprived in our home right now because something is knocking on our walls. Sounds like it's coming from the attic sometimes, and sometimes it sounds like it's coming from outside the house.
So you have then tried to track the sound. You've got
Yeah, we like have gotten
Ghost
out
hunters
of
in your own
bed and like looked around. I
Oh,
thought for
no.
a while maybe it's like a woodpecker or something, which
they're
we do
not usually
have.
nocturnal.
But at night, yeah,
Exactly.
they wouldn't be active.
It's always at night. It's very strange. Our neighbor has heard it too because she
Oh.
was telling. Now she's
This sounds like a Scooby-Doo
she's,
mystery or something.
she's very open to the mysteries of the universe. Maybe even
Oh.
like more than
Are you saying like
my
tinfoil
very
hat?
woo-woo self is.
Mhm.
So I don't know, but so yeah,
Well,
we.
you're into the mystic arts too.
Oh yeah,
right?
but yeah.
So if you try to communicate via tarot,
hell no! Oh hell no! No.
Does that mean you like Wiccan or something like that?
No, I mean, like I'm pretty open spiritually, but I don't like to mess around with spooky ghosts. Might be time to sage the house though. But I'll keep everybody updated.
Summon Santa Muerte.
That's the
Maybe they
that's the
just-
cool
they-
thing happening in our home right now.
maybe they just want you to let them in.
Like the Fiend? It's Bray Wyatt trying to get into your house.
Yeah.
Well, he has more important shit to do than keep me awake all night, so I'm gonna need him to get
As
back
he
to
said-
his contract.
As he says, run, and blows out the light.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the most exciting thing happening
Okay,
for
well,
us, and all since we somewhat talk about ghosts, I'll keep everyone posted.
well,
Please do.
Welcome
That
any
story
any
has a
ghost
beautiful taste to it.
suggestions.
So,
Thank you. It does.
yeah, and some sort of stain.
No.
Aw.
So,
Aw.
you like that, Brian? Yeah.
No.
Slip that in there.
I didn't enjoy any of that.
Okay, so we thank you for any of you who have made it this far, or even listened to the first 10
Yeah.
minutes.
Well, if they listened the first 10 minutes, they wouldn't be listening now.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's
Maybe they skipped to the end.
But so, anywhere you can find this, if you can find it anywhere, it might be in the lost tapes of GCT. But give us a like, let us know, what you think, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. We will post another one of these. I'm not going to say how often because we don't want to limit our possibilities. But this will probably be the only one for this week. So
Definitely. It won't be more than weekly.
Yeah. We're kind of lazy
This is a
around here
tri-weekly podcast.
in my non-office and their office. So whenever they kick me out, we won't do any more. But for now, we'll post at least one a week.
Christina, do you have a show yet in mind that we're going to be discussing, doing a deep dive on next week?
Oh, I've got a couple of doozies.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
You don't want to give a teaser?
No, I don't want to give a teaser
Okay.
yet.
No.
It's gonna be good.
She doesn't want to be a tease.
We're gonna get weird.
Okay.
Uh-oh. Nice. We're going sci-fi weird or weird?
You'll just have to
Okay.
see.
We'll find out next week. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.
Peace.